I thought the Mindy Brain pairing was brilliant because Brain works best when somebody is annoying. And she was every bit as annoying as Pinky, and it's no accident that she's played by the brilliant Nancy Cartwright, Bart Simpson.
So now you got a hoot and holler for Maurice LaMarche. Big hand. So again, as I said to these folks, the panel is yours. Maurice, you want to talk for a little bit? You want to do some Q&A? We'll do whatever you want to do.
I just want to pick the right one, the one that feels better. You sure? All right. And I'm a two-fisted drinker today. There you go. How are you guys? Yeah? Cool. It's actually, we could actually I could interview each and every one of you individually and find out how you really are. Each. And we would still get done early. No, I'm kidding. Okay, so okay, we can be heard. This is good. Hello, my friends. Hello, cousin. How are you? Good. I'm good. Well, my name's Maurice LaMarche, and I'm a recovering cartoon voiceover actor. Thank you for coming to my 12-step meeting to cure me of this need I have to do things like take over the world, or bust ghosts, or find that rascally rabbit, or destroy those kids next door. Or find and marry Amy, my smizmar. Ooh. Or give tonight's newscast doom! Or sing the Blue Danube Waltz like this. Yeah. There you go. It's funny, I'm like sitting here going, now who else do I do? What other characters do I have? And apparently somebody counted many years ago during the first season of Futurama and attributed 72 different characters to me. And yet I still wasn't the most prolific on the show. Who do you think had the most characters on Futurama? You would think it would be Billy, wouldn't you? Tress MacNeille. Tress MacNeille played, at that point in the first run of the show, 74 different characters. That's how prolific she is. Well, you know, but that's the thing about Tress is that, I mean, she's so versatile that between The Simpsons and Futurama and Disenchantment, she plays somewhere around 9 gravelly-voiced, smoky-voiced old ladies. And each of them is distinct and separate. And that's amazing, to get that kind of character separation, where she's the crazy cat lady on Simpsons, and she's Hattie, the old lady in the housecoat in Futurama. And they sound in the same vein, but they have totally different personalities. This is what makes Tress great. She's a wonderful actor. And I don't say actress. I mean, it's just, we're actors, you know, just whatever our gender is. It doesn't matter. You're a wonderful actor. And so Tress, to me, I was one of the people that I just count myself so very, very lucky that I get to work alongside her, learn from her, which I'm still doing, and to just laugh on the job. You know, it's an amazing thing. I mean, most people don't get to have that. Most people wait for the weekend to laugh, you know, and they go to comedy clubs, and I get to sit next to people like Rob Paulson and Billy West and Tress MacNeille and Phil LaMarche, and, you know, we just crack each other up while they're paying us. And I just go, what lottery did I win, you know, to come into this life? You know, it's like I won the lottery, but I took the 26 annual payments. You know, I didn't get a big lump sum. But I've worked steadily in this business of making comedy invisibly, anonymously, and letting far more talented people than I draw it, animate it, set music to it, most especially write it, because the writing is really key. I've worked on, I think, something like IMDb attributes 430 projects to me. 90% of those were adequate. Just adequate writing, serviceable, gets us on Saturday morning, sells a toy. It's fun enough for the kids. And then you get something like The Critic, written by Al Jean and Mike Reiss and James L. Brooks and Judd Apatow and Steve Levitan. And we get a show like that each week is like something that would make it a fantastic feature comedy film. Really thoughtful, really smart writing. Pinky and the Brain, a show about two lab mice trying to take over the world. But the show wasn't about taking over the world. It was about the relationship between those two characters. It was like if, going back to the classic Ralph Cramden and Ed Norton, from The Honeymooners, except instead of, a get-rich-quick scheme, it was taking over the world, but it was really about Ralph and Ed, Norton and Cramden, and their dynamic, Abbott and Costello, and their dynamic between each other. Two characters that drive each other crazy, but they also can't not be with each other, It's a marriage of sorts. And writing to those relationships and getting to work with writers who understand that the writing is about the relationships. This is why I count myself so lucky. Disenchantment is, it's as Matt Groening calls it, and if you haven't watched it on Netflix, it's a complete series now, limited series, 5 seasons, 50 episodes. Binge it; it's really good. And what's good about it is, as Matt said, it's a fantasy drama with jokes. So there's a real story there and real journeys for the characters, and And I can't believe Matt Groening calls me up on my cell phone and says, "You want to go get sushi?" But this is I've been a very, very lucky guy. Considering they threw me out of high school and said, "Well, good luck. Hope you have a lot of success out there making your jokes and doing your little voices. Really, we hope you do. We hope we come see you at the O'Keefe Center." But I didn't finish high school, and yet I play geniuses on TV. The reason for that is that when I was a little boy, my father, he had several jobs. He was at one point a broadcaster for the CBC in Ottawa, and he started with Peter Jennings and Alex Trebek. The three of them were like the news guys at the CBC station in Ottawa. And I don't know what happened to Peter and Alex, but my dad, after a year, went, "This isn't happening fast enough for me." And he got into pharmaceutical sales. So he went to work for a company in Canada called F.W. Horner. And so he'd come home and he'd practice his sale pitches. And I just like any little boy watching his daddy do his job was the greatest thing in the world. And he would practice all the fancy chemical names so he could deliver his sales pitch with authority. And I'd try to practice the names along with him. So I got really good at saying, at 4 years old, saying, "Diamond hydrogenate, acetylsalicylic acid," And so I got really good at sounding intelligent while not actually being intelligent. So this is why I get to play the Egon and Etno from Space Goofs and him too, yeah. I'm trying to think of some of the more obscure characters. Oh, there was a wonderful show by my friend Gordon Bresack called Captain Simeon and the Space Monkeys. Did any of you see it? It's viewable on Tubi now. And Captain Simeon and the Space Monkeys is the brainchild of Gordon Bresack, who won 3 Emmys for writing Animaniacs and Pinky and the Brain. In my opinion, I think he and his partner Charlie Howell wrote the funniest ones, the most joke-driven ones and high-concept ones, and they're among my favorite episodes. But he created this world, and he cast from all areas of science fiction. Malcolm McDowell was in the show. Michael Dorn was in the show. They all had regular characters. David Warner was in the show. And anyway, it was really an unsung show of mine. If you get a chance, binge Captain Seaman and the Space Monkeys on Tubi, and it's really a great little run of some wonderful writing and some good science fiction. We had D.C. Fontana write a script from Star Trek, the original series. So we had some very good stuff going on in that show. So talking about, and I played a character named, that's why I brought it up, Dr. Splits. He was an orangutan who had a split personality. One part of him was Splitsy, the mechanic, and he talked like this. Well, just howdy. And then he'd undergo a transformation, boing, and he'd suddenly be, I believe the flux capacitor is incapacitated. And he sounded like John Houseman. So I got to, again, use the big words. And this is just using my childhood to fuel my career. Can I say career? I just think it's work life. I'm lucky to have a work life like this. So anyway, enough about me blathering, which I could do, and I know you've been waiting 15 minutes already. I want to get to your questions. What questions might you have for me? Yes, sir.
Here, we don't know how you do like.
How are you doing today, Mr. LaMarche?
Hi, good. How you doing?
Good. I have a bit of a twofer. One question is, if you remember the Animaniacs episode where Brain was with Nina, I think was the character's name.
Brain was with whom?
Where they switch out which Animaniac was with which, like they paired.
Was it Mindy?
Yeah, I think
Mindy
it was
and the Brain. Yeah.
If you could have had Brain with any other Animaniac for an entire episode, who would it be? And since you've worked with some of the best actors that money could buy, is there any talent that you wish you had the chance to work in and probably hope to in the near future?
Okay, first, I thought the Mindy Brain pairing was brilliant because Brain works best when somebody is annoying. And she was every bit as annoying as Pinky, and it's no accident that she's played by the brilliant Nancy Cartwright, Bart Simpson. I'm trying to think who else would have been good. I guess if he could have paired with Buttons, the big goofy dog, that would have been all right. I'm thinking Wacko in the Brain could have been interesting. Slappy. Yeah, I don't know. Two curmudgeons might cancel each other out. It'd be a contest to see who could be more curmudgeonly. I don't know. Maybe Katie Kaboom in the Brain. That might be. Might try to harness her unique power of blowing up, but we'll place it right directly in the seats of power throughout the world. We'll make her explode. Yes, now the trick is to annoy her. I'll need Pinky. Oh, but that breaks up the pairing. Anyway, so that. And what's the second question? If I could work in any town?
Yeah, you've worked with actors like Michael Dorn, David Warner. If there's any talent that you...
talent. I'm sorry, talent.
Talented actors or whomever you wish.
Well, we did have Eric Idle on Pinky and the Brain, and Rob and I bonded over the fact that we're both Python files and British comedy enthusiasts. So getting to Eric recorded his stuff separately, but I came in and read along with him anyway. I just came in for free and just said I can't not help Eric Idle out because he needs my help, But I would say I would love to work with John Cleese. That would be, if I could do something with John Cleese, except I'm worried I would annoy him. Because he's one of those people that's just, so smart and does not suffer fools gladly. And at my heart, I'm a fool. Like I say, I'm not a genius. I just play one on TV. And but I'd love to get the chance to work with John Cleese. Getting to work with like Anthony Hopkins would be, I've played him on The Critic. But if I could get an opportunity to work with Tony Hopkins, that would be Tony. I call him. He said, "Call me Tony." So but those people would be amazing. Yeah, I've gotten to work with some amazing people, but those two are like on my bucket list. Anyone else with a question? Okay, for propinquity.
I will use the mic properly. one of my favorite roles you've done is Mr. Freeze for Batman the Animated Series.
Thank you, my friend. This does not make us friends, however.
Nor should it. But my question is about work you've done with Kevin Conroy.
Yeah.
Because he's been on my, with this being Pride Month and him passing a year ago, he's been on my mind a lot.
Yeah, sure.
Do you have any good, I'm sure it was a good, have you worked with him? And if so, can you tell me a little bit more about the experiences you had with him and with working with the other actors on that series?
Sure. Well, I've only done 2 episodes of Batman the Animated Series. I played Joker's henchman Murphy, which I was surprised, that he actually had a name. Usually it's henchman number 1, henchman number 2, but Murphy, is a somewhat competent henchman. I think it's thrown to the hyenas though at the end of his second episode. But getting to work along Kevin, he was always a very giving actor, very much in the moment with you, and I when I first met him, I was taken with that he wasn't buff, he wasn't a large man, he hadn't built himself up. Obviously, it's only for voiceover, so that he seemed almost a little bit on the slight side, and yet this powerful voice came out of him that was amazing. And he transformed. He became Batman. And as a giving performer, as a great guy, I just really, really loved him. And we didn't get that many opportunities to work together. On the Arkham games, we did do a day where Mark and Kevin and I recorded a scene that actually it ended up being taken out of the game because Joker and Freeze and Batman don't have a scene together. But this was a scene that was in there, and we were bouncing off of each other and playing off of each other. And they both Mark and Kevin made me feel like, even though I was the new guy to the franchise, because it was supposed to be Michael Ansara, and Michael got very ill and eventually did pass away from the illness that prevented him from being able to do the Arkham games. They treated me just like a member of the family, like I'd been, Freeze all that time, and that that it was really welcoming and sweet. So I all my experiences with Kevin, both at cons and the few times I got to be in studio with him, were fantastic. He had a wonderful sense of humor. He had this rich laugh. And it was great to crack him up every now and again, He's a wonderful man, and he's sorely missed. Yeah. Let's...
Oh, okay. I couldn't tell if it was coming to me or not, but I told you I'd be here.
Hey, then thank you for coming.
Thank you for having me. Hold on. I have to write my questions down. I get a little wordy.
No worries.
So pardon the voice again. Do you have a line or a bit that has stuck with you kind of in your day-to-day life, whether it's just something that you think of or maybe you reference to yourself? Because personally, I always think of your Orson Welles when I'm at the grocery store.
Whenever you're in the frozen peas section? Yes. Especially the ones that are full of country goodness and green penis. Wait, that's terrible. Yeah, I cannot answer the question, what are you doing, without saying the same thing I do every day, and then fill in the name of the actual person who asked the question, and then try to take over the world. It's impossible for me not to answer that question that way. That's probably the biggest catchphrase that haunts my psyche, that won't leave me. I just find myself, going throughout the day. Well, I'll tell you another one that's with me at all times, because I'm actually channeling my wife, Robin, who Kif's weary sigh comes from her. I'm just doing her. When it came to, it's just all it said in the script of the first episode 3 that Kif appeared in, was weary sigh. I just went, ugh. That's a sound that's heard through my house for the past 30 years. Every time I come up with something, especially something I think is particularly bright, and I'll hear, ugh, it's my wife. So, Kif lives on. Yes. Although I've never gone up a ladder behind anybody and gone, oh, geez. That, thank goodness, is a one-off, that moment. Yeah. You had a question, and you were the original person whose hand I had. Yes. Is it you? No. I'm glad I answered yours too, Cody. Right? Connor. Sorry, I'm glad I answered yours. But yes, I was really pointing at you because you had your hand up for a long time.
Okay, so what is the funniest mistake you've ever made while playing your characters?
The funniest mistake? Oh, gosh. The funniest mistake. Well, again, back to Gordon Bressack. Gordon wrote an episode called You Said a Mouseful, an episode of Pinky and the Brain. And the episode was about Brain planning to take over the Kicky Sack Sacco Sock Kicking Factory in Secaucus, New Jersey. And to fill each kicky sack with helium so that anyone wearing the shoes would rise up and not be able to stay earthbound, whatever the hell. Like I said, the plots were secondary. It was really about the relationship. Well, Gordon, God rest his soul, wrote an episode full of tongue twisters. And to cap it all off, he cast as the guy who welcomes Pinky and the Brain to the factory as they disguise themselves as Japanese businessmen. He cast John Moshida, who was known as the world's fastest talker. He had a Federal Express commercial back in the 80s and 90s, and he was literally the fastest talking person in the world. And so we did this script full of tongue twisters that were impossible. And, there was so many ways to, accidentally say the word that, also means a male chicken. Yeah. Another word that is an acronym for underage carnal knowledge. And what the humor came from my finally getting so frustrated with myself that I got up from my chair and walked into the control room where Gordon was doubled over with laughter because he'd written this torture piece for me. And I just went up to him and went in the shoulder. Slugged him like the way Lucy would slug Linus in the Peanuts cartoons. And then I just turned around and walked back to my chair and did the take. As we recorded that episode, and all of us, the person who blew the least lines was not me, obviously, and it wasn't the world's fastest talking man. I think Rob Paulson may have only blown 2 lines the whole time that we recorded that thing. Yeah, but United States, Canada, Mexico, Panama, on the first take, that's obviously what's going to happen when you're working with Rob. So that might be the funniest recollection I have of anything where, something got messed up. Anybody else? I'm going to let you pick them because the responsibility is too much for me.
Thank you. My question is, out of all the voices you do, what is your favorite one?
My favorite one? My favorite one, as Rob Paulson says, is the next one because it means I'm getting paid. That's Rob Paulson's answer. But I have to go back of all the characters I've played, Brain has the dearest place in my heart. He's a little asshole, but he's egomaniacal, he's narcissistic, he's brilliant, but he is, at the end of the day, indomitable. And what resonates with him, resonates for me about him, is the fact that no matter what happens, every episode ends with the same thing we do every night, Pinky. try to take over the world. He just, and it's the message of Pinky and the Brain. Don't give up. Just don't give up on whatever your goal is. And how do you just, yeah. I mean, Batman just walked in. How do you let that roll off your back? You are in my world now, Batman. You will bring me Nora, or you will die. Hopefully that girl next to you is named Nora. Anyway, so, yeah, Brain just has a dear place in my heart. He's the most layered character. Followed closely by Kif, whose sweetness and whose exasperatedness is eclipsed only by his romantic spirit and his ability to step up to the plate. I mean, we meet Kif and he's kind of weak, and we think that he's runs roughshod. But there's been several episodes where it's Kif who saves the day, who finds his inner hero. So I love Kif as well, and I also love Lur, ruler of the planet Omicron Persei I-8. Can I crash on your couch? Because his midlife crisis came at exactly the time my midlife crisis came. So while we were recording that episode where he and Inda separate, I was going through my own separation with my wife, who I did eventually reconcile with, and and I ended up getting to kiss Katie Sackhoff from across the room. Because voiceover, nobody needs to actually kiss. You just kiss the back of your hand, more like that. So Katie and I made out with the backs of our hands, and I won an Emmy for it. So how do you not love a character that won you an Emmy? So anyway, those are my faves. Top 3. Didn't know there'd be exercise involved, did you, today?
Oh, I'm ready.
There you go. All right. No, you pick them.
Okay.
Hi.
Hi.
I wanted to ask an Egon Spangler question.
Okay.
Did you actually get to meet Harold Ramis, who actually played Egon before?
The only Ghostbuster I didn't get to meet.
Seriously?
I met everybody else. I've met Bill Murray. I've met Ernie Hudson and I bump into each other at these things all the time. I got to meet Danny Aykroyd at Sam Kinnison's funeral, and he was close to Sam as I was, and we had a nice long chat about Sam. Annie Potts is a member of my gym, so I see her there all the time. So it's only Harold. It's the only one I never got to meet. Yeah, so I heard through Violet, his daughter, that he liked what I did with the character. He wasn't crazy about the Nordicizing of Egon, the blonde hair, and it's like Harold's Jewish, Egon was Jewish, and they kind of de-Jewified him for the cartoon show, and there was no reason to do that, But all in all, I understand he was happy with my portrayal, and I was the only one that got away with doing an impression. When they originally cast it, they actually said, don't do impressions of the people in the movie. If we wanted that, we'd ask them to do the cartoon show. And so I got in the booth and I had absolutely no other ideas. I looked at the sketch of Egon and I just went, I tried a Poindexter voice, this could be extraordinarily dangerous for Slimer. That's a Force 5 free-roaming phantom vaporous apparition. And I just went, no, that's not going to work. So I just went, that could be a Force 5 vaporous apparition. It could be extraordinarily dangerous for Slimer. And I came out and I was like, I just went out and went in and did Harold Ramis. And Michael C. Gross, one of the executive producers of the film and the show, came out and said, you get to do an impression. And I didn't know it, but that meant that he cast me on the spot. So that was fun. And Egon was another very rewarding character in getting to stand on Harold's shoulders and play that character through 140 episodes of Real Ghostbusters, Extreme Ghostbusters, Slimer and the Real Ghostbusters was great. Yeah. I just wish I could have met him, but Violet Violet wrote in, and I bought her book, and she wrote on the inside, "Thank you for keeping the spirit of Egon and my dad alive." So that was nice. Yeah. Violet Ramus's daughter. Yeah. So there we go. Anybody else? Yes. Hello.
I just wanted to know if you have a favorite memory from working on Futurama, like if there's anything that sticks out, like a certain recording session or anything.
God, I mean, they're all so much fun. But I think, going back to the beginning, I'd never met John DiMaggio before. I'd worked with Billy for years on many things, including The New Adventures of Beanie and Cecil in 1987. And Billy was Cecil and I was Dishonest John. And, here was this little firebrand coming out of Boston and New York radio. He just started to go work for Howard Stern. And, and he amazed me with everything that he could do. So when we got onto Futurama, there was this powerhouse named John DiMaggio. And, he has a certain, energy to him, a certain swagger. But, as soon as he has his first scene with Billy and the professor, and he sees that Billy can actually play off of himself for a good 3 pages, just talking amongst himself, he starts cracking up and blowing takes. And I just reached over to one of the other, these tall chairs with these backrests, with a cushion, and I just handed it to him and said, "You're going to need this." And he just put the thing to his face, and as he's just doing this, he's laughing into the cushion because he's blowing takes. We're all of us in those days that recorded the whole cast, and he's just like, so that's one of my favorite Futurama. Yeah. Getting to work on developing the character of Kif was also, because that was Matt really got in there early on and really to lay the pipe of who these people were, and we worked for a good couple of hours just finding the right voice for Kif, just keeping on doing. We tried John Lovitz, we tried Truman Capote, and then we kind of got the idea of marrying those two, because he said I want him to have the sort of the attitude, the pissiness of Lovitz. But he should sound weary, and I just always thought Truman Capote sounded very tired no matter what he was doing. So I just, "Sir, it seems the rest of the crew doesn't share your passion for velour." And then it became, "Sir, it seems the rest of the crew doesn't share your passion for velour."
I was wondering if there's a character whose voice you find is the most natural for you to do, and one that's the least natural, like a little difficult.
Well, yeah. I mean, the really difficult ones are the ones that take, that can actually cause vocal damage, like Yosemite Sam, Morbo, Wacko's belching, Elf's burp, Eddie, not Eddie. What's the name of who? Will Ferrell's character in Elf. What's that? Buddy the Elf. Yes. Those ones are very hard for me. I've done them for you already, and there's already a little rasp starting. The most natural voice for me was the King in Frozen. I basically did my own voice. I basically just leaned in and said, "Don't feel it, conceal it, don't let it show. These gloves will help." That's it. It's just me. I just kind of raised the aristocraticness just a smidge. And that was the voice we used for Frozen. Yeah, that's me. There you go. And the voice of Lexus is probably really close to I was the voice of Lexus from 2009 to 2017, and that was pretty much this. It was the 2016 Lexus GS. Once driven, there's no going back. See your Lexus dealer. So not all voice acting is about doing big charactery things, It's about using yourself. It helps if you can do a few calisthenics with different vocal tensions and that type of thing. Helps you play more characters, keeps you working maybe a little longer. But it's really more about reaching inside and using who you are and using your experiences and your feelings. And so hopefully I've succeeded in some way with that. Yes, sir.
What was your favorite brain plan from Pinky and the Brain?
My favorite Pinky and the Brain plan?
Yes, the best plan that the Brain ever came up with.
Well, the best plan, and this is not up to my opinion, I'll give you the best plan and my favorite plan. I'll give you my favorite plan first. My favorite plan really kind of tied into my life. It's the plan where Brain decides to become a stand-up comedian, much like I did in 1977, because he wanted to get a hit sitcom for himself so that he could use hypnotic teeth once he's on camera to hypnotize the masses. A lot of his plans involving hypnotize the masses. So I really related to that. It was fun, going through the trope of going in, being in front of the network guy and my comedy jacket, Pinky. And he pushes up the sleeves because it was the 90s and people were still pushing their jackets up from the 80s if they were out of touch. And so I enjoyed that one very much. The best plan, though, was our Emmy Award-winning Christmas episode because the plan actually worked. Brain did take over the world. Those noodle noggin dolls were in every home in the world, and Brain has everybody in his power. And he but what is Pinky? Has anybody not seen the Christmas special? Okay, do this. Go loo 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 loo. Okay. Brain commands the world to have a Merry Christmas. And then the machine burns out and he can't use it again. That to me was the best plan because he actually took over the world for 3 minutes, or three seconds. So that's my fave.
All right. I don't know if you answered this before or not, but when you were getting into the business and all that, did you do any type of commercials, whether on the radio or on TV?
Oh, yeah. Lots of commercials. In fact, my very first paying voiceover in the United States was a Southwest Airlines commercial with, oh my gosh, I can see his face. I can't think of his name. Hector Elizondo. Hector Elizondo and me for Southwest Airlines. That was the very first thing I ever drew a check for doing a voiceover. Then that was followed quickly by Inspector Gadget, and that was my very first series regular thing. But I've done a ton of commercials. I mean, I was the voice of American Airlines for 5 years. We know why you fly. We're American Airlines. And I was Toucan Sam from 1987 to 2020. Follow your nose, it always knows. Kellogg's Fruit Loop cereal with natural orange, lemon, and cherry flavors. Yeah, I've succeeded Paul Frees in that. I did Paul Frees's, I think, second last commercial with him, and I played a character that was sort of based on Doc Brown, except he was a bird. Look, Toucan, my bird bot can sniff out fruit flavors just like you. And Paul was not able to be there. He was on his island, and because that's how much money he made doing voiceovers, because he made money when money was still worth something. And so I read in Toucan's lines, and they liked what I did with my impression of Paul's Toucan Sam. So they had me back, and they still had a big cattle call, but I eventually ended up with the job. Yeah. No, I've done a lot of commercial work. It's a great way to pay the bills.
If I remember correctly, that when Pinky and the Brain first became its own program, the themes of the episodes were a little more mature.
Yes.
Family friendly, but a little more adult oriented.
Right.
I just wondered if you could give us some your feelings of how that went, how it changed, and how it affected other later, more mature series.
Well, I mean, we were on Sunday night, opposite this upstart show called 60 Minutes. No wonder we only lasted 13 episodes. But we were on Sunday nights at 7, and so we were still in the family hour. I mean, the episodes involved things like Brain getting a job, so that he goes to work in an office, so that he can do something with Coffee Mate and a microwave oven. I can't remember what it was. But in that show, we got to explain office politics. You know, we got to explore things like sexual harassment and that type of thing, which we wouldn't have done in the after school hour. We did a wonderful one going down to raise the Titanic to get the hypnotic crab meat or something like that off the side of. And we used the word hell and damn. That's about as. The show was still about their relationship at the end of the day. Wonderful addition, though, counterbalance to Brain. Bless you. They brought in Roddy McDowall to play Brain's nemesis, an evil hamster who wanted to not only take over, he wanted to destroy the world. So Brain, got to be a somewhat heroic figure up against Snowball, the hamster, who wanted to destroy Brain and destroy the world. And the great thing about that was getting to work with a pro like Roddy McDowall, who, knew Elizabeth Taylor, was her best friend, was old Hollywood. I mean, he came to the sessions he was always 15 minutes early. I mean, we'd get there and they wouldn't have opened up the studio yet, and Roddy was waiting. He wore an ascot and a tweed jacket, and just the most professional, charming, wonderful man. And when you think of the fact that he was in How Green Was My Valley, and here he was doing an episode of Pinky and the Brain, and he viewed them both as equally important. They were both acting jobs that it was his duty to service the script and service the entire project. And he treated Rob and I the way he might have treated Elizabeth Taylor. I mean, we treated us like old friends, and we got to do I think we did about 5 or 6 episodes with Roddy, and we didn't find out till later that he was battling cancer all through that time and died shortly afterwards. He never let on. He never complained. He was just glad to be doing an acting job, because no matter how much money you've made or how established you are, actors like to work. If you don't give us a day to show up on the set or into a recording studio, where are we? We're not actors anymore if you stop giving us that work. We're just some people that have, want attention, and now we don't know how we're going to get it. So that's a fun thing.
Which of your roles did you have the most fun recording for, and what about the recording made it so fun?
Which of my roles overall were the most fun? Well, I mean, I've already covered how much fun Pinky and the Brain was to do, and Real Ghostbusters was great. You're in a room with Frank Welker. You're in a room with Lorenzo Music, who was the voice of Garfield, but also created the shows Rhoda and the Bob Newhart Show as a writer. I probably learned more about comedy from Lorenzo, just trusting that the funny will come, because Lorenzo was effortless. I mean, he didn't think in terms of, well, what's the funniest syllable that I could emphasize? He wasn't technical at all. It was just all instinct with Lorenzo. So that was great doing Real Ghostbusters with him. And then later with Coulier, who I knew from stand-up. We laughed a ton between Arsenio and Dave and me, and Frank, who had his time as a stand-up. You got 4 comics in there trying to crack each other up with fart sounds, and just wonderful, wonderful times. But I'll just speak to that for a second, in the sense that sometimes the show that's the most fun to do isn't the show that makes it, isn't the show that becomes a huge hit. I think I laughed more making a show called The Chimp Channel for TBS, back when that was, the big cable channel. And it was, it was like using the same principles as Lancelot Link's Secret Chimp. We recorded dialogue, and then they got a bunch of chimpanzees in suits and put them in a little, scaled down set of a TV station, and it's chimps that are making television shows. Well, the scripts were hilarious. We had incredible fun making it. We laughed to almost throwing up. We were laughing so hard at making the show. We did 13 episodes with Rich Horvitz and Dwight Schultz, Jennifer Hale. God, it was just an incredible cast. Darren Norris, and we just thought, how can this not be a hit? It's so hilarious, and it got on the air and did nothing, absolutely nothing in terms of business, because it was like a hat on a hat. The scripts were already funny. It should have been a show about humans making it. It should have been just a human, sketch players making a sitcom about this, but you had chimps that you weren't paying attention to the very hilarious and subtle dialogue. You were watching them going as they, tried to get the chimps to dub our words, and it just didn't work. So you never know. There's no formula for a hit. William Goldman has a great line in his book Adventures in the Screen Trade. Nobody knows anything. And what that means is that if you had the formula for creating a hit show, a hit movie, you'd make more money selling the formula than you would making the hit shows and the hit movies. But nobody knows anything. So you can't tell. You can only make your thing. You can only go and do your best and make the thing you want to make, put it out there and see if anybody laughs or gloms onto it, or it touches their heart and goes back to see it and goes to see it again, or orders it up on the Netflix or the Hulu or any of the streaming things, and but you can only put out your own creativity, and do your best. I didn't know Brain was going to be, this iconic character, but Rob and I we recorded it. When we made Animaniacs, they were trying a billion different things. It was a magazine show. And there were so many things that went by the wayside, like Katie Kaboom and Chicken Boo, that they didn't make so many of them because the fan response wasn't so great. But so it was one of 24 things they were trying. And we recorded that first Pinky and the Brain, and I remember turning to Rob and going, well, those guys were fun. I hope they come back. We didn't know. And then it became, its own series, and then brought back in the new Animaniacs reboot, and for a little while there was talk of possibly making a Pinky and the Brain movie, but that got Zaslaved. I mean, that got it went the same way as the Coyote. Yeah, they killed it, but it was in development, and maybe it'll be in development again. Who knows? We shall see.
All right, we know Maurice has a photo op soon, so we got time for one more question. Who's got a good one? Oh, your hand went right up. It better be good. Oh, okay. Go ahead.
Okay, so prior to you getting here, we were told that you do an amazing Captain Kirk impression, and I would love to hear it.
I don't know if it's a Captain
For
Kirk's.
my Trekkies in the back, I see you.
It's a William Shatner impression. Yeah. Shatner doing a commercial. No. Somebody put in my hands, and I never really unlocked the Shatner voice until an engineer gave me this outtake of Bill Shatner doing a Star Trek game, and the engineer says to him, "Bill, back up to 198 and 199. Do those again, and you're in the void now, and you're hail fellow well met. Please don't tell me how to do it. It sickens me. Sulu, Chekhov. Spock, sabotage the system. Spock, restore the atmosphere. Spock, sabotage the system. I wish I knew what to do. Observations, Mr. Spock. Bill, that line, sabotage, could you pronounce that sabotage? I don't say sabotage. You say sabotage. I say sabotage. That's my shot.
It's going to be pretty hard to beat that, right? Well, everybody,
I
one
hope
more time.
You will come down to my table and say hello.
One more time for Maurice LaMarche. Big hand.
Thanks, and thanks for putting up with the delay.
This is Captain Zap Brannigan. I prefer to call myself Admiral Zap Brannigan. I'd like to draw your attention to that sexy subscribe button, those curves, that triangle. Like Leela's eye. Click it. Ah, that was great. Follow fun and have fandom and yabo.